what is actually promised, yes? So the wine of different year or different geographical origin, we can measure it here. Our throughput is around thousands of samples per year. With the time, I developed also this eager, let's say, to be more involved in the business. It's always good not to be stupid and prepared. That is an advantage, that customers who are researchers, very often they have biological questions that they want to answer, and here we help them to answer that questions.
Today we are in the Science Park in Potsdam, which is the home of 3 Max Planck Institutes, and one of them is the Institute for Molecular Plant Physiology. And I'm mentioning and highlighting this because this is also the heart of one startup we're going to meet today. It's MetaSysX. MetaSysX was founded by Professor, former director Lothar Willmitzer. He didn't only found them, he also made quite some successful exits. Beside Lothar, we are going to meet also Silvia Kirchniowska, who is the CEO and also a former scientist of the Max Planck Institute. So now, let's go!
So this is MetaSysX core infrastructure, and let me show you all the machines and what we are working with.
Thank you.
So this is what we are using here most commonly.
Yeah.
The aim of the company is to detect, identify, and quantify as many compounds as possible. So you have to imagine that we got the sample of different types, and we are using this machine and a couple of other machines to check what is inside. These are mass spectrometers. Depending on which machine we use, they work on a little bit different bases, but the aim is the same: detect, identify, and quantify different compounds in different samples. And yeah, this is what we do here, and this is our, let's say, scheme of service. And everyone can come with a sample of interest and ask us to measure and analyze the samples.
Great. So actually I have many questions now. We already had a very nice discussion. We were also rescuing the world at this trying to. So now you said I can give you a sample and you can detect it. Are there kind of typical examples you get? Are they coming from food industry or from pharma, or where do they come from?
So the samples are coming from all industries, and of course, depending on the core research, they ask different biological questions. However, from our point of view, we analyze and we want to see what is inside, and usually what is changing between the samples. So of course, if there are clinics, then usually it's serum or plasma samples, and they want to see how the samples or what the composition of the sample of blood changes upon different treatments, different conditions, different disease, or you can imagine everything what is important for diagnostic. Then if it's from agro company, then of course they are coming with different plant samples, crop samples, and then we analyze for them to see the differences in different genetic backgrounds of plants or upon different treatments, herbicides, insecticides. So there are different biological questions that are of interest for different industry. And then there is a food industry. And for example, for them, what is important is a fraud. So I always have such a nice example of wine. So if a winery or someone who is at different end would like to check if we have inside the wine what is actually promised, yes? So the wine of different year or different geographical origin, then we can measure it here. If there was enough amount of sample or number of samples, then we can, let's say, assume based on the new analysis that yes, this sample is similar, and then we can say that probably in this wine, indeed you have a wine from this geographical origin and this year. It's of course more complex than I'm saying right now, but overall we could say that we can classify the wines to certain origin and years.
So Silvia, now you're talking like a businessman, and I know from your background you're actually a scientist. But my question would be, the step from scientist to run a company, it's a big step. How did you prepare for that? I mean, how did you prepare for becoming the CEO?
So of course it's a process.
Yeah.
And as founder of this company, Lothar Wilmitzer says, it's always good not to be stupid and prepared, and also to be in the good time at good place.
Yeah.
So of course it's a process. I came here as a scientist.
Yeah.
And then with the time, I developed also this eager, let's say, to be more involved in the business, also business development, because in our company, though we have very well established pipeline, and when I came here, the pipeline was established to much extent, we still could develop certain methods, we could still develop certain quality controls, and also the kind of new business idea. And this was for me, though there was good established pipeline and the methods were, and the core were already established, something that was developed newly. Also to work with people who are customers but still researcher was very interesting, and actually this is an advantage, that customers who are researchers, very often they have biological questions that they want to answer, and here we help them to answer that questions. So for me it was like natural development into more business, not only research.
Beautiful. Now actually there are two questions. One is, you say your customers have a scientific background, which helps you obviously quite good to communicate with them. And you mentioned the aspect of a team, having the right team. And I think this is a very big success factor for building up a good company. How did you build up the right team? How did you find the right people?
So, of course, again, it's a kind of a luck. We are in close proximity to Max Planck Institute, from where we get really very good researchers, top researchers in Germany, but also in the world. And they all have scientific backgrounds, so they are also eager to have that knowledge, which is a huge advantage, because of course they are eager to develop new things as researchers, but also sometimes can drawbacks that in general in companies you have a different style of working, and there is also process of adaptation, and people kind of need to turn not only to answer biological question, this need for digging even more and more and more and always get the knowledge, but also kind of to not be attached to the project. Yes, so you have to build up this kind of ability to work on the project, but then to give it up because it's someone else's biological question and we need to help them to answer that question. But of course the team here are very complementary people with different background. They are of course specialists in what we do here, in the biochemical analysis, in different biochemical methods, in mass spectrometry, but of course their abilities are complementary. Someone is interpreting data better, someone is actually analyzing data better, yes? Someone is responsible for running the machines. So we all complement each other. There are software engineers that are responsible for the software infrastructure, and at the end, these people as a team create the perfect environment to be successful. This was one side. It's people that are, of course, the most important part of the success of the business, any business. But here, because it's a scientific, so of course we have big part machine that is the core infrastructure, and let me show you other machines. So all these machines are exactly used for analysis, and with these machines, because we have three different setups, we are able to detect most comprehensive number of compounds and of different chemical properties. And because we have so many of them, our throughput here, which is also very important for the success, is around thousands of samples per year. So we are able to analyze thousands of samples, obtain data for these thousands of samples from different platforms. So at the end of the day, it's a huge number of data that enable us to answer biological questions.
So that means, or could you say that every year you get better because your database grows?
So for certain, it's a good question. Actually, for certain project, the database is a crucial thing. So not only that we analyze newly the samples, but we learn from the samples that we already analyzed before. And for example, certain cooperation partners, they actually rely on us because they measure every year new sample, but they use previous samples to make context. So they learn, they prepare their databases, and then with every next set of samples, they are using the previous information. However, there are, of course, customers that come with smaller sets of samples, and then it's just analysis and identification of compounds. And this is mainly coming from different research entities and institutes.
So I wonder, if I was a young scientist and I would love to take my technology and make a business out of it, what would your recommendation for me? Now, still working at Max Planck, still in the same area, having a lot of knowledge, what would be your recommendation to become an entrepreneur as you are today?
So, based on Metasis X, let's say, if I would say you want to establish a successful business, then of course demand on the market is one of the very crucial things. And this company was established because of the demand of the market. So metabolomics was at some point very important platform in research, and demand of the market was very big, and that's why we established here the company to fulfill this requirement of the market. So this was one step. Second, of course, there is kind of a marketing which in science looks a little bit different, and of course here it's on one hand it's easier because you sell a product that actually people want because they know it's useful for the research. But on the other hand, it's so specific that you need to convince some people that this is good. But in here, it's kind of a help also of the society, because from publication, from different research institutes, it was shown that metabolomics is very useful for science, for research. But so this was a second point. And third, of course, as you said, is a competent people and a team that works very well with each other and make it possible to go.
What I see when I talk to scientists very often, that they know their technology very well, but they don't have an idea about the market. What would be the market? Who could need it? What's the benefit of it? How did you find out that there is a big market, a promising market out there?
So this is, of course, there are two founders of the company, Professor Lothar Winitzer and Dr. Thomas Frischmuth, and they have both of them research background, but also one of them, actually both of them are very good in business. So Lothar established many companies, they were all very successful, as well as Thomas, who established many companies, and they were all very successful. So it was much easier for them in this respect, because they knew how to work with the bureaucracy and with the, not bureaucracy in the bad meaning, but in general, how to quickly have a running company on the market. That was one thing. And second, from the perspective on the demand, is Lothar had a group in Max Planck Institute. He was director of Max Planck Institute and developed this field for years. So he had tens of years of experience, or 30 years of experience in metabolomics, and he knew exactly who is interested in this type of analysis or in this type of research. And he noticed at some point that there are companies that they know what they would like to measure or what they would like to answer, but they didn't know how to do it. And the answer was metabolomics. And since in Max Planck Institute, Lothar already developed and established these methods very well. We could kind of mimic or mirror this technology here and offer it to the broad audience, as Max Planck doesn't always necessarily offer it to companies.
So what does a typical day in your life look like?
So indeed, as a researcher, it was kind of a different style of work. So of course, dealing with customers and talking with them, though it's on research level, it's my now main thing, but also kind of administration, that every document that kind of goes now through the company to a certain extent also pass through my hands. And for this, I was not used to before. And this is kind of also challenging, to get used to it, to kind of turn into different mode of work. Also that to a certain extent, I mean, we are all friends here. We came from Max Planck Institute. And this is something very new that you kind of need to also encourage people, let's call it encourage, to be on time with projects, to have a plan. So this planning is also in my hands at the moment. We are a small company, fairly small company at the moment, below 10 people. So of course we can deal all with each other. It's still not too demanding, and therefore kind of this maintenance of the whole company and make it sure that it's running properly, it's now on my shoulders. And it's very inspiring and also very challenging, which is very nice.
So you don't regret the step?
Absolutely not. It's a very nice step.
It's a very nice step.
Yeah.
So I really look forward to having my glass of wine today, this evening. And I know that there's a lot of science behind wine, but I didn't know that there's so much science behind it, as we've learned today at Metasus X, that you can detect the molecules within wine. This being said, I'm very grateful for the day today here. I mentioned the science park here in Potsdam, and I forgot to mention one very important part, which is the Golm Innovationszentrum. And I'm highlighting it because when you do science, it's very crucial that you also have an ecosystem to transfer science into society. And this is one part of the ecosystem. And we within Max Planck provide the Maxpreneurs ecosystem. Our colleagues from Max Planck Innovation, the Max Planck Foundation, and many others. So please, dear scientists, I invite you, contact any of us if you're interested in science and entrepreneurship. And we are so happy to show you a way what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to take your research to the next level, transferring it into society.